billionaire lost his fortune overnight until the janitor said, "Sir, you forgot this one paper." Marcus Thornfield stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows of what used to be his corner office on the 47th floor, watching the city lights blur through tears he refused to let fall. 24 hours ago, he had been worth $3 billion. Now, he owned nothing but the wrinkled suit on his back and a cardboard box containing a coffee-stained calendar and a photograph of his late mother. The federal agents had left an hour ago, their footsteps still echoing in his mind like a death march. Fraud charges, asset seizure, a business partner's betrayal, so complete, so perfectly orchestrated, that Marcus had lost everything before he even knew the knife was at his throat. His empire built over 30 years of sacrifice, sleepless nights, and missed moments with the people he loved had crumbled to dust in a single morning. If this story touches your heart, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment, sharing your thoughts, and subscribe to Kindness Pulse. Your support helps us bring more inspiring stories to life. Now, let's continue with Marcus's journey. The office building that had once hummed with his name now felt like a mausoleum. Marcus moved through the empty corridors like a ghost, his footsteps hollow against marble floors that had cost more than most people's homes. Security had given him until midnight to clear out his personal belongings, courtesy extended not out of respect, but out of pity. The walls were bare now, stripped of the awards and accolades that had once proclaimed his genius. The photographs of ribbon cuttings, charity galas, and handshake deals with presidents and prime ministers had been taken down, leaving only the faint outlines where they had hung like chalk marks at a crime scene. Marcus had always believed that success was built on intelligence, strategy, and an iron will. He had never imagined that trust, such a fragile, foolish thing, be the fatal flaw in his fortress. His former CFO, a man Marcus had mentored for a decade, had been skimming money through shale companies for years, forging Marcus's signature on documents that would eventually paint him as the architect of a massive fraud scheme. The evidence was manufactured but flawless. The lawyers had been clear. Fighting this would cost everything he had left, and he would probably still lose. So here he stood, a man who once commanded boardrooms and influenced markets, now clutching a cardboard box like a fired clerk. The elevator dinged behind him, but he didn't turn around. He had said all his goodbyes to his assistant of 15 years who had cried into his shoulder, to the young executives who had looked at him with confused betrayal in their eyes, to the security guard who had walked him through these halls 1,000 times and couldn't meet his gaze tonight. Mr. Thornfield. The voice was quiet, tentative, heavily accented. Marcus turned to see an elderly man in a janitor's uniform, pushing a cleaning cart with a squeaky wheel that had annoyed Marcus during late-night work sessions for years. He had never learned the man's name. The janitor approached slowly, as if afraid Marcus might shatter like glass. In his weathered hands, he held a single piece of paper, folded carefully into quarters. "Sir," the janitor said softly, "you forgot this one paper. I found it under your desk when I was cleaning. Marcus took it mechanically, expecting some meaningless document, some final insult from the universe. But as he unfolded it, his breath caught in his chest. It was a stock certificate, dated 32 years ago, printed on heavy paper that had yellowed with time. Before the company that had made him famous, before the deals that had built his empire, there had been his first investment, a tiny tech startup run by 3 college kids in a garage. Marcus had been 23, fresh out of business school, with more ambition than sense. He had invested $5,000 he couldn't afford to lose, taking a chance on young people with a dream because someone had once taken a chance on him. Asterisk. The company had failed within 2 years, or so he thought. The certificate had been stuffed in a drawer and forgotten, buried under decades of more important papers, more significant victories. Marcus stared at the faded ink, at the company name he barely remembered, Neuralink Technologies. His hands began to tremble. Neuralink, he had seen that name recently, hadn't he? In the news, maybe. His mind raced, pulling fragments of memory from the chaos. 3 weeks ago, at a charity dinner he had barely paid attention to, someone had mentioned a breakthrough in neural interface technology. A company that had been working in obscurity for decades, surviving on grants and the stubborn vision of its founders, had finally cracked the code. Their technology was about to revolutionize how humans interacted with computers, how paralyzed patients could regain movement, how the blind could see. Neuralink Technologies had just been valued at $80 billion. The 3 college kids from the garage, now gray-haired and weathered by decades of failure and persistence, were about to change the world. Asterisk. Marcus looked up at the janitor, who was watching him with patient, knowing eyes. How did you... ... Marcus started, his voice breaking. I cleaned these offices for 30 years, the old man said quietly. I see many papers. I see many important men forget the most important things. He tapped the certificate gently. This paper was not with the others. It was in a book on your shelf. A book about your mother's recipes. I think maybe this paper was important to your heart once, not just your wallet. Tears finally spilled down Marcus's cheeks, hot and unstoppable. His mother had given him that cookbook when he started his first business, had told him to never forget where he came from, to never forget that the best things in life were made with patience and love, not just ambition. He had put the stock certificate in that book for safekeeping, a reminder of his first leap of faith, and then he had forgotten both the certificate and the lesson. The janitor squeezed Marcus's shoulder with a gentle hand. I lose everything once too, he said softly. In my country, before I come here. I lose my business, my home, everything. But I learned something. When you lose everything, you remember what you forget. You remember why you start. Asterisk. Marcus spent the night in a cheap hotel, making phone calls, confirming what his racing heart already knew. The stock certificate was legitimate. His shares, diluted over decades but never dissolved, were worth approximately $420 million. He was not a billionaire anymore, but he was not broken. The money, though, was not what kept him awake until dawn. It was the realization of what he had become in his climb to the top, so focused on the empire, on the next deal, on proving himself over and over again, that he had stopped seeing the people around him. He had not known the name of the janitor who cleaned his office for 30 years. He had not noticed when his assistant's daughter graduated from college. He had missed his mother's last 3 birthdays before she passed because of business trips that could have been rescheduled. The fortune he lost had been built on ambition, but it had cost him everything that actually mattered. Asterisk, asterisk, before we reach the end of this powerful story. If Marcus's transformation has moved you, please don't forget to like this video and subscribe to Kindness Pulse. We share stories that remind us of our shared humanity. Your engagement means the world to us. Asterisk, asterisk, 6 months later. Marcus stood in a community center in the neighborhood where he grew up, surrounded by young entrepreneurs with more dreams than capital. He had used his recovered fortune to create something different this time. Not an empire, but a foundation. He funded small businesses, mentored young people who reminded him of who he once was. And he learned every single person's name. The janitor who saved him, whose name was Eduardo Rivera, sat in the front row of every workshop Marcus taught, smiling his patient smile. Marcus had offered him money, a comfortable retirement, anything he wanted. Eduardo had refused it all, except for one thing, a small investment in his grandson's restaurant. "I don't need to be rich," Eduardo had told him. "I just need to see my family dream come true." Marcus understood now that success was not measured in billions with your name carved in stone. It was measured in the lives you touched, in the people you remembered to see, in the moments you chose to be present for instead of chasing the next victory. He had lost everything and found something better himself. The person his mother had raised him to be before ambition had rewritten his heart. Sometimes we have to lose everything to remember what truly matters. Sometimes the smallest gesture of folded paper, a kind word, a moment of attention can change the entire trajectory of a life. And sometimes the people we overlook, the ones we pass by without seeing, are the very angels who save us when we're too blind to save ourselves. Never forget that wealth is not what you have, but who you are when everything is stripped away. And never, ever forget to learn the names of the people who walk beside you in this brief, precious journey we call life.